live again. This is Conexiones, and we do this show every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Tonight we have a very special guest. She is the guest on Viva NOLA's cover for the magazine for the issue of January. She was featured on the cover because there is so much to this wonderful person, so much to share. An amazing young Latina who does a lot for the community. Not only in her food blog called what is it, Beyond the Eaten Path NOLA?
Off the Eaten Path. You
NOLA.
got it.
And also with her work in beloved community. Her name is Nicole Ralston, and she's here with us, sharing some time with Viva NOLA, with Conexiones, and with our community. Nicole, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And I should mention it's Doctora Nicole Caridad.
It is.
Congratulations on that great achievement. When did you graduate for your PhD?
Yeah, I graduated in May 2019, so just half a year ago or so.
Half a year ago, because time is moving really fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so yes, you have so much following here in the community with your beautiful account on Instagram.
Thank you.
That focuses on delicious food.
It does.
And I know where this love of food comes from, but why don't you share some of that with us?
Yeah, good question. So folks always ask me like how I got into being such a just like food loving person, and I think a lot of it comes from my roots of coming from a Cuban American family. So if folks have read the article, I talk a lot about being a mixed race Latina. My dad's side of the family is white. My mom is from Cuba. Her family's from Cuba, and so I grew up mostly with in South Florida near the Cuban side of my family. And my abuelo had a finca, had a farm. And so, raised livestock, had fresh fruits and vegetables, and was constantly in the kitchen cooking. And I think like a lot of those early experiences with food and eating really fresh food and what some people would consider like unique foods opened my like palate up, I guess, as a little kid to all of the like great flavors and tastes around the world. So I really love food. People also want to know, like, is there anything that I don't like? Really, no. The only thing I don't like is like parsley. Sometimes fresh parsley bothers me in dishes. Otherwise, like I am open to all
That is
foods.
A very strange. I haven't heard about that. I've heard about the cilantro issue,
which is so sad because it's the best thing ever.
But what I've heard is that for people it tastes like soap because something in their whatever.
Yeah.
However they may. I'm not one of those people.
No,
so
me neither. Luckily.
Lucky. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is like so much we can talk about because, I mean, you are a very knowledgeable person. You have been studying about diversity and inclusion and so many different aspects of what happens in society that sometimes is unjust and there is no equality. And this is something that perhaps when I went to school was something that was just getting into the surface. And I feel like nowadays it's becoming more and more important to be aware of these issues and to learn how to manage them in the work environment, in the educational environment. So tell me how you got into wanting to learn more about this and actually do work in these fields.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think if I go like way back to even my like childhood experiences, I think a kind of overarching experience of growing up, especially in two different cultures and navigating two different cultures, is like feeling that I didn't necessarily fit into one. And also seeing like within my own family with like differences in color of skin, how people were treated or what perceptions people had of family members that were not from this country, right? Or were darker skinned or had an accent or couldn't speak English. I think all of that stuff just made me really in tune to people have different experiences.
Absolutely.
Like based on whoever they are, period. I don't think there was any strong feelings about or ideas about, oh, I'm going to do this for my living or for the rest of my life. But I think some of those like experiences growing up made me just always like consider that and keep that top of mind. It was probably when I was finishing up my undergrad at Florida State and I was getting really involved on campus issues around like multicultural affairs and students, is when I decided I wanted to like actually make this a career in some way. And at first it took me into higher ed. I worked in higher ed around these issues, and then now I'm consulting full time with Beloved Community. But yeah, that's probably the start of it.
And let's talk to people about your educational journey.
Yeah, okay.
You went to high school in Florida, and then you went to study what in college?
Yeah, I studied history in college. I love history. But yeah, I studied history, and it was a mix of like Latin American history, American history, and some like Eastern European history, but overall history. I got my master's in higher education administration, which really focused on essentially how to work with college students, so folks in that like really developmental time period of like 18 to 25, when they're growing, when they're learning things about themselves, how to support them, how to move forward, equity and inclusion on a college campus atmosphere. So I got my master's in that, in higher ed, at North Carolina State University. And then I started working. So I worked full-time without being in school for about 3 years at the University of New Orleans. And then I started my doctoral program at UNO. And I always knew I wanted to get my PhD. I remember sitting in my undergrad graduation. This is so terrible. And I should have been like, I was so happy and so proud of myself, right? But I specifically remember seeing the doctoral candidates like graduating, and they were like getting their hood. And I was like, that's going to be me. And now it is. But yeah.
That's congratulations.
Thanks.
That's very amazing, especially because, and you mentioned that in the interview that we did for the magazine, that you were one of the first people in your family to go to college straight out of high school.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so straight out of high school, in my immediate family, I was the first. So my aunt and my dad got their bachelor's degrees eventually, just a little bit later.
So they started working first,
yes.
and then getting their
education.
education.
Yeah, like I was, sorry, I tapped my
no, don't worry about it.
I was like a little baby, I think, when my dad finished his bachelor's degree. My mom started taking classes, which she didn't finish. She has an associate's degree. And then first to get a master's and first to get a PhD. And my sister is in nursing school now, which is going to be really exciting when she graduates, and she'll be our first nurse.
And where is your family?
They are in a couple of places, mostly South Florida, Homestead, Naples, and then also LA, Los Angeles, and then Victorville.
Okay. And so you came to continue your education here in New Orleans. You moved with your then boyfriend, now husband.
Yep.
You made a deliberate decision to move to New Orleans.
I did.
Why was that?
I love New Orleans. I think a lot of the decision at the time was around, we wanted to be somewhere still in the Southeast because both of our families are in Florida. So we wanted to be, semi-close. We had visited New Orleans a couple of times, both for fun and for like professional conferences. And we just really loved it. I think, and my mom had said this when she first visited me, but it reminded her a lot of Cuba, New Orleans. And now that I've traveled to Cuba, but traveled to various places, I can see that, right? Like there is something very Caribbean about New Orleans. And I think some of that culture and the food and the music and the vibe just like speaks to me on a deep level. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
So you found home.
I did, yeah, I did.
And the food blogging, the Instagram, did that start here in New Orleans, or you started that before you moved?
Started here.
And
yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah, right, exactly. Started here because I started eating a lot and realizing this food is really good, and I was driving all of my friends and family nuts, like sending them photos all the time, like, look what I'm eating, look what I'm eating. It's like, I'm going to organize this somewhere to not bother them, but if they want to see what I'm eating, they can visit this page. And it was a Tumblr back then. But yeah, so that's how it started.
And what made you like really get into it and make it like a side? I mean, to me it looks like it's a full-time job, and then I find out that you have like this other full-time job that
Yes.
demands really most of your time.
Yes.
But I'm like, okay, so she does this, which requires all this, like knowledge and focus, to consult with people and
Absolutely.
to do the research on how their organization operates and what they can improve. So you have to be there, mentally 100%.
Totally.
But then you have this other career.
I do.
That's the food blogging, and not only you take pictures of food when you go eat, but you're active in events and you judge competitions.
I do.
And, I mean, it's amazing. It sounds like a great balance, but at the same time it takes a lot of work. So how do you devote so much time to it, and why you do it?
Yeah. I think the reason why I devote so much time to it is because of why I do it, which is that I really love New Orleans and uplifting New Orleans communities, and one of the ways that I can fit in doing that is through food, right? My love of food. And like I said, I started just like tracking for myself what I like to eat, and so that I wasn't bothering anyone sending them photos all the time. But it really blossomed after a student at Xavier University actually interviewed me for her journalism class, and said that she really liked my blog. And at that interview, she said, you should launch this on Instagram. Like, I feel like this could get really big. That was the moment where things got really big, and I had to become conscious about how I was spending my time. So I know we were talking about this before I started the interview today, but I post in the morning usually. So if you follow me, you see that I've usually got to post up before 11 a.m. So that's one way I manage it. Like, I'll wake up, and in, the wee hours of the morning when you're still kind of coming into your day, I'm on Instagram for like a solid 30 minutes, engaging in posts, commenting, reposting, building my posts for the day. And then throughout the day, I mean, everyone has to take breaks. And so usually a couple minutes within every hour or so, I'm like checking again, engaging, right? And
the old smoking break. You do the Instagram break.
the Instagram break.
Which is much healthier.
That's so, yeah.
In some cases,
Some cases,
yeah.
Yeah, so, and then at night, now that I'm not in a doctoral program anymore, I do feel like I have so much time, which is slowly dwindling with other commitments, but that's okay. But so I get to go to more events now, and right, and I'm like, I feel grateful to be able to be invited to a lot of things, and to be able to experience the world, the New Orleans in particular, in this like food industry way that I'm not the chef or the owner of the restaurant, but I'm still like adjacent and plugged in some way. And it just gives me a lot of energy. And who doesn't like good food?
Yeah, I don't know. But you said something very interesting about this connection between the food and the work you do of equality and justice, and because I think that openness to trying different foods and to understanding why these foods take shape, or where do they come from, or why those ingredients are used in a certain culture. Sometimes it might be because that's the only thing that's available to a certain group of people.
Yep.
I think that diversity that comes from food, it's also reflected in culture. So to me, it's interesting to see how you pair those two. And can you talk more about that relationship between food as culture and how we interact?
Yeah.
As different groups of people.
Yeah, food is a huge part of culture, period. I think it's a great entryway for folks to get to know another culture, right? And to even practice some pieces around like being an interculturally competent person, like around this openness piece, right? So there's this funny saying, a lot of different folks and organizations say it, but don't yuck my yum. in terms of like not, right? Like we get plates delivered from our respective cultures to us right now. And I'm like, oh, what is that? That doesn't make you feel good, right? Like,
Absolutely not.
right. Like I have some, ooh, sorry, I keep hitting this. I have some specific memories tied to like being a little kid and bringing something to lunch that other kids thought like smelled weird or was different, right? Like people, that's not, it doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel included. Like you should be at that table, whatever. So I think if you think about it in that way, yeah, food can be a really good way for folks to practice and model like openness, you know, taking your perspective or your tastes to be valid for you because I'm not you, right? So I'm never going to taste or see things the way that you do and vice versa. And then I think, you know, if you go further and even thinking about like equity and inclusion, you can look at the restaurant industry or hospitality industry and all the different issues that we see bubbling up all the time, right? In terms of race or gender or pay, right? Salaries, like all of those things. It's always, diversity, equity, and inclusion is there all the time. You can make a case for it in any topic, in any field. And food is often a fun and delicious way for folks to even connect over those topics too.
Is it an equalizer, you think?
It can be. It can be, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just thinking out loud right
yeah,
now.
People are eating, their guards are down, right? They're more open. Maybe it's a way for you to like share about the particular things on the plate, how you made it, where it comes from. Absolutely. Food culture, I love it all. If I were to ever get another PhD, which I'm not, it would be around this piece of like when you first started speaking about like where different things come from or why people eat that particular thing in that area. I find that so fascinating.
A little bit of anthropology, I guess.
Yeah, right. But I'm not doing another PhD.
We'll see.
No,
we will see because
no.
she likes to learn.
No, it's not going to happen. I will learn in other ways.
So what can you tell me about the importance of understanding these issues that are there? And for many years we've known about the issues that are in society, you know, the different treatments and the inequality and I think now we have shifted that thought that okay, they're there, but if we don't talk about it then they'll go away. Now, like you go to speak at different events, you go to conferences where these things are at the forefront, and we're kind of like finding ways to bring them to the table and talk about them and try to make the world a better place. You say in the interview as well that's what drives you, like leave a better world for those who come behind us. What do you think that it's needed for this to happen, for us to be able to share and to interact and to find, you know, like the common ground and to learn that we're humans at the surface, that's what we are. We're humans and we should leave everything else aside. But all these years is 2020 and supposedly we'll have like an advanced society, but we still deal with these issues. What would you like to see or what should we all do to overcome all that?
Yeah.
It's too much. It's like too much to ask, but in your daily...
Yeah. I think like small, I mean, I say small, but this is a lot of work, like small ways that you can do interpersonal work, like your own work, about understanding who you are. Like, I feel like if you can get your own house in order in terms of like, where do you come from? What are the identities that you hold in terms of like privileged identities or marginalized identities? Where do you hold some power that you can potentially like really step into and shift things for others that don't have that same power, right? Or where can you build up your own internal power because you've been told for so long by society that you don't have any power. I know sometimes I speak very lofty, but I think like that deep personal work, I'm like constantly doing it, of understanding who you are, where you're coming from, where you want to go, and like giving yourself grace in that journey. I think can open up spaces for you to start to be more open to seeing that things are really complicated, right? And you can't just look at someone face value and make all of these assumptions because you know that you're really complicated. But if you haven't gotten to that space of like, oh shoot, I'm really complicated, and all these messages that I got throughout my life weren't necessarily the truth or weren't necessarily something I wanted, right? Like, how do you get to that space? And then you can start seeing things as not just, two-sided issues, but there's often always a gray area, and that things are just hard. And yeah.
And I really think, like the younger people now are understanding that it is important to take a look inside. And understand those different layers that we have. And so, like if you know that you have experienced something in your life that is affecting the way you perform or you think or you act, then to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand that also those experiences have shaped them into the way they are. And so maybe it's easier then to find a common ground.
I think so.
Or to know if a group of people have been lacking resources.
Yeah.
That might be why they're acting in a certain way. I mean, I think what you studied and the work you do is very interesting. So I think we could talk so much more. I could ask so many more questions, but I do believe that it's really great that there are people like you looking into these issues and trying to fix them to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we still have conflicts, wars. There is the Iran-Iraq thing going on right now. And it's like, for me, it's like, why can't we understand each other better?
Yeah. And it's all, I think, like the personal work is a way to get started on like understanding how all these things play out. Because they aren't, the issues that we're experiencing now are no new issues, right? They're tied to, like they're tied to systems.
Overcome all that.
Yeah. But they're tied to these deeply embedded like systems and structures that are really made up, but still have serious consequences for people. And so one way I think for even to try and understand what that system looks like is to see how it plays out in your own life. But then also look at the data. Like Google, gender pay gap across any industry. There's always one. Right? Like Google the racial wealth gap in the United States. There's one in every city. Like it's these aren't made up things they're not just based on our personal feelings, right? But Correct. I think if you can start there, then you can start to digest some of that other information and be like, oh, okay, I'm open to receiving that now. I can understand.
Great.
It's lifelong.
All right, let's move to a lighter issue right now to finish this interview. And it's what are the events coming up that you're going to, or what cool thing is coming up in the food world?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I wish that I had my calendar on me.
No, just one that you're I know you're going to one later.
I'm heading to one tonight. Yes, I'm heading to one tonight. So Seed in the Lower Garden. If folks remember, they were open, and then I think they switched owners. They've got a new pair of owners. But they're vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. They've always been really tasty, so I'm excited to check them out tonight. So that's my most upcoming one.
Okay.
There is one other. Am I going to this weekend? Belle Epoque?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, in the Quarter. It was the old absinthe house, and now they've kind of been redone and are doing food and drinks. I'll be checking that one out as well.
So you always can find what's going on and what new places are there, or if they launched a new menu at somewhere else, you can do that by visiting Nicole's Instagram page of the Eaten Path NOLA.
Yep, you got it.
The underscore, what is it?
At Eaten Path NOLA.
That's how you find her. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight, for talking to us and letting us tell your story. Hopefully it is inspiring a lot of young Latinas or Latinos to go into higher education, to learn so many different things and to apply them in the real world so that we can have a voice and representation in that field as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll have some more time to talk in a different occasion, maybe with a more specific subject at that point. But thank you so much for being here. Did you watch the LSU game?
I did.
You
yes.
did. Okay.
Yes. Go Tigers.
Are you okay? Go Tigers.
You know, I am because I live here. I didn't go there, but I will always support the home team. So
I was thinking maybe you had another mascot or team that you were supporting because you went to different schools.
Nope.
But yeah, so to finalize, we're gonna leave everyone with this video from yesterday. We went to the Superdome and talked to some of the fans before the game. We didn't know that LSU was going to have this massive victory. So congratulations to Tigers and Tigers fans. And after that, I'll say goodbye with the events for the week. So I'll see you next time. Monday night is a very special night here in Louisiana because the LSU Tigers took on the Clemson Tigers for the national championship game here in the Superdome in the city of New Orleans. We spoke to fans from both teams before the game to see what the expectations were. Let's take a look. To be here on championship night?
Unreal. I mean, it feels like we're at the center of the universe. There's no buzz like it. It's taking a little while to get in, but you know what? That's okay because it'll make once you get in just a little bit all that more incredible.
So are you a LSU student?
No, I'm not.
Why are you a fan of LSU?
I love the story. I mean, I like good teams. I'm not, I don't need no underdog in the fight. I don't know. I think I like what they're all about. Can't beat Coach O. I mean, the story's incredible. It's all coming together. The stars are aligning for LSU in the town of New Orleans. Yeah.
So we have some LSU students here who are super excited about the game, right?
Yes, very excited.
What is the most exciting thing about it? I don't think you were in college when the last time they won. You probably were like in high school or maybe middle school. So how does it feel to be a student of LSU and to have them go to the championship?
I love it. I love going to LSU. I've always wanted to go to LSU, and it's very exciting.
It's always go Tigers over here. I feel great.
Tonight you have to be careful because go Tigers can mean two things, right?
No, it only means we're going to win. Go Tigers.
LSU Tigers. And what do you know about football and about what's happening here tonight?
LSU's going to win. We're going to take them to the championship.
Why? Because the Clemson, they're like defending champions. They haven't like lost any games for a long time. Why you're so confident about LSU winning?
Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and a lot of other people.
Tell me what's going to happen tonight. What is your prediction?
Clemson's going to win by 4 touchdowns. Facts.
And what are you going to do when that happens?
We're going to go drink LSU down south. That's how we do it.
Hi, Chad. So you're an LSU fan.
Yeah.
For how long have you been a fan?
All my life. Yeah.
And so it's been a long time for this team to get back to the final championship. How are you feeling tonight?
2011. Yeah, feeling good. Feeling
Feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
You feeling good?
I'm feeling good.
You sure?
Yeah, feeling good.
Tell me about the team itself. How do you see their chances of winning tonight?
So I've waited all year for them to kind of just not come out ready to play. And of course, they played every game. They're ready to go. I think they're ready to go.
Go LSU Tigers! Woo!
Go Tigers! This is Viva NOLA's weekly calendar of events. Tropical Delirium Cumbia Party is this Friday, January 17th at Butt Ribs Bar in Bywater from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Enjoy a mix of psychedelic cumbia presented by Malaria Sound Machine. This weekend, Brick Universe, the Lego Fan Convention, will take place on Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Pontchartrain Convention and Civic Center on Williams Boulevard in Kenner. More Lego fun can be experienced at the Lakeside Mall this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Lego Masters Break by Brick Tour can be enjoyed by everyone. Take pictures in a life-size Lego environment. La Noche Caliente by Muévelo starts at 9 p.m. at the Three Keys Bar in the AC Hotel. Don't miss a night of dancing to live music in one of the trendiest places in New Orleans that has amazing drinks. Saturday evening, a Creole Carnival celebration will take place at the Sugar Mill venue in New Orleans to benefit NOLA youth. Bal Masqué has an online auction happening right now to raise funds, and the actual celebration begins at 7 p.m. with amazing costumes, international musical acts, and lots of fun. Big trucks will invade the Superdome on Sunday, January 18th for the popular and boys' favorite Monster Jam from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. On Tuesday, January 21st, the New Orleans Museum of Art celebrates a Museum Selfie Day. Post your selfie at NOMA for a chance to win a one-year membership for friends and family to the museum. And last but not least, from January 22nd to the 26th, the Folk Alliance International Annual Conference will take place in New Orleans, a celebration of collaboration, shared identities, art, and forms of expression. For more information on these events, please visit vivanolamac.com. See you next time.